Shepard's attic was a large, unfinished room with exposed beams and no electric light. They had set the telescope up on a tripod in one of the dormer windows. It pointed now toward the dark sky, where a sliver of moon, as fragile as an eggshell, had just emerged from behind a cloud with a brilliant silver edge. Inside, a kerosene lantern set on a trunk cast their shadows upward and tangled them, wavering slightly, in the joints overhead. Shepard was sitting on a packing box, looking through the telescope, and Johnson was at his elbow, waiting to get at it. Shepard had bought it for $15 2 days before at a pawn shop. "Quit hogging it," Johnson said. Shepard got up, and Johnson slid onto the box and put his eye to the instrument. Shepard sat down on a straight chair a few feet away. His face was flushed with pleasure. This much of his dream was a reality. Within a week, he had made it possible for this boy's vision to pass through a slender channel to the stars. He looked at Johnson's bent back with complete satisfaction. The boy had on one of Norton's plaid shirts and some new khaki trousers he had bought him. The shoe would be ready next week. He had taken him to the brace shop the day after he came and had him fitted for a new shoe. Johnson was as touchy about the foot as if it were a sacred object. His face had been glum, while the clerk, a young man with a bright pink bald head, measured the foot with his profane hands. The shoe was going to make the greatest difference in the boy's attitude. Even a child with normal feet was in love with the world after he had got a new pair of shoes. When Norton got a new pair, he walked around for days with his eyes on his feet. Shepard glanced across the room at the child. He was sitting on the floor against a trunk, trussed up in a rope he had found and wound around his legs from his ankles to his knees. He appeared so far away that Shepard might have been looking at him through the wrong end of the telescope. He had had to whip him only once since Johnson had been with them. The first night, when Norton had realized that Johnson was going to sleep in his mother's bed. He did not believe in whipping children, particularly in anger. In this case, he had done both, and with good results. He had had no more trouble with Norton. The child hadn't shown any positive generosity toward Johnson, but what he couldn't help he appeared to be resigned to. In the mornings, Shepard sent the two of them to the Y swimming pool, gave them money to get their lunch at the cafeteria, and instructed them to meet him in the park in the afternoon to watch his Little League baseball practice. Every afternoon they had arrived at the park, shambling, silent, their faces closed, each on his own thoughts, as if neither were aware of the other's existence. At least he could be thankful there were no fights. Norton showed no interest in the telescope. "Don't you want to get up and look through the telescope, Norton?" he said. It irritated him that the child showed no intellectual curiosity whatsoever. "Rufus is going to be way ahead of you." Norton leaned forward absently and looked at Johnson's back. Johnson turned around from the instrument. His face had begun to fill out again. The look of outrage had retreated from his hollow cheeks, and was shored up now in the caves of his eyes, like a fugitive from Shepard's kindness. "Don't waste your valuable time, kid," he said. "You've seen the moon once, you've seen it." Shepard was amused by these sudden turns of perversity. The boy resisted whatever he suspected was meant for his improvement, and contrived, when he was vitally interested in something, to leave the impression he was bored. Shepard was not deceived. Secretly, Johnson was learning what he wanted him to learn, that his benefactor was impervious to insult, and that there were no cracks in his armor of kindness and patience where a successful shaft could be driven. "Someday you may go to the moon," he said. "In 10 years, men will probably be making round trips there on schedule. Why, you boys may be spacemen, astronauts." "Astronuts," Johnson said. "Nuts or knots," Shepard said, "it's perfectly possible that you, Rufus Johnson, will go to the moon." Something in the depth of Johnson's eyes stirred. All day his humor had been glum. "I ain't going to the moon and get there alive," he said, "and when I die I'm going to hell." "It's at least possible to get to the moon," Shepard said dryly. The best way to handle this kind of thing was with gentle ridicule. "We can see it. We know it's there. Nobody has given any reliable evidence there's a hell. The Bible has given the evidence, Johnson said darkly. And if you die and go there, you burn forever. The child leaned forward. Whoever says it ain't a hell, Johnson said, is contradicting Jesus. The dead are judged and the wicked are damned. They weep and gnash their teeth while they burn, he continued, and it's everlasting darkness. The child's mouth opened. His eyes appeared to grow hollow. Satan runs it, Johnson said. Norton lurched up and took a hobbled step toward Shepherd. Is she there? He said in a loud voice. Is she there burning up? He kicked the rope off his feet. Is she on fire? Oh, my God, Shepherd muttered. No, he said. Of course she isn't. Rufus is mistaken. Your mother isn't anywhere. She's not unhappy. She just isn't. His lot would have been easier if, when his wife died, he had told Norton she had gone to heaven and that someday he would see her again. But he could not allow himself to bring him up on a lie. Norton's face began to twist. A knot formed in his chin. Listen, Shepherd said quickly, and pulled the child to him. Your mother's spirit lives on in other people, and it'll live on in you if you're good and generous like she was. The child's pale eyes hardened in disbelief. Shepherd's pity turned to revulsion. The boy would rather she be in hell than nowhere. Do you understand? He said. She doesn't exist. He put his hand on the child's shoulder. That's all I have to give you, he said in a softer, exasperated tone. The truth. Instead of howling, the boy wrenched himself away and caught Johnson by the sleeve. Is she there, Rufus? He said. Is she there burning up? Johnson's eyes glittered. Well, he said, she is if she was evil. Was she a whore? Your mother was not a whore, Shepherd said sharply. He had the sensation of driving a car without brakes. Now let's have no more of this foolishness. We were talking about the moon. Did she believe in Jesus? Norton asked. Johnson asked. Norton looked blank. After a second he said, yes, as if he saw that this was necessary. She did, he said, all the time. She did not, Shepherd muttered. She did, all the time, Norton said. I heard her say she did, all the time. She's saved, Johnson said. The child still looked puzzled. Where? He said. Where is she at? On high, Johnson said. Where's that? Norton gasped. It's in the sky somewhere, Johnson said. But you gotta be dead to get there. You can't go in no spaceship. There was a narrow gleam in his eyes now, like a beam holding steady on its target. Man's going to the moon, Shepherd said grimly, is very much like the first fish crawling out of the water onto land billions and billions of years ago. He didn't have an earth suit. He had to grow his adjustments inside. He developed lungs. When I'm dead, will I go to hell or where she is? Norton asked. Right now, you'd go where she is, Johnson said. But if you live long enough, you'll go to hell. Shepherd rose abruptly and picked up the lantern. Close the window, Rufus, he said. It's time we went to bed. On the way down the attic stairs, he heard Johnson say in a loud whisper behind him, I'll tell you all about it tomorrow, kid, when himself is cleared out.